Hello and welcome to another video. Rick Miracle, just another truth seeker. In the series Freemasonry and Satanism, number 63. I've done some interesting videos lately, trying to follow a sequence of book reviews to make clearer the picture of what is going on in the world. The New World Order, the New Age. Why would the Supreme Court ban all the states from regulating whether they want gay marriage or not? Is there anything to it? For 2 or 3% of the population, the Supreme Court sides with, and angers and intimidates and frustrates a good majority of the Christian population and other religions. You think that's the purpose? Then we have Jade Helm, where they're dispersing troops all over the United States, exploding bombs, shaking houses. And we have Snowden, who reported of all the spying going on all over the world, angering presidents of Germany like Angela Merkel. Brazil angers countries everywhere. And giving out cell phones to native Indians on the tribes in America and free wireless internet. Why? Is there a nefarious purpose to all this? May seem like I'm going nowhere with this introduction, but things are happening in the world that are just bizarre. There's no other way to put it. You got the sky spraying going on that some people are oblivious to, have no idea. All they have to do is look up and see the sky spraying lines, and if they watch it for 20 minutes, a half an hour, they will see that sky spraying line spread apart like a blanket. And sometimes they'll see ripples in the stuff in the sky, which is not wind, and apparently that's some kind of radio-magnetic transmission. Some say HAARP, H-A-A-R-P, scalar waves. Maybe it's radio transmission from satellites in space. Maybe from towers on the ground. Apparently they're relocating or locating more towers every 200 miles all over the country. Can those radiations harm people? Bees, which are apparently dying, trees, which apparently there's some interesting effects in trees dying. And then we have Monsanto with genetically modified food, which under some laboratory tests have proven to not be friendly to the human body. Definitely not friendly to animals they tested on. And so the sky spraying off the coast of California, per some videos on the internet, somebody's controlling the California weather, almost eliminating all the water from many of the areas. And then they talk about Agenda 21 and sustainability, and that Americans should not be having one person in a car anymore. And just on and on and on. I could go on with this introduction for a whole hour. But I think, from my research, we are being lied to and deceived. So that brings me to a book and a subject I've been wanting to do, but I had to put other subjects in front of it to make a point of who seems to be in power on planet Earth and their motivation, what they want to do with the future of the New Age and the New World Order, population reduction, mentioned in books and famous people for 100 years. 1930s in the last video, H.G. Wells. Then in the Blue Lodge handbooks for the Freemasons, we definitely see a lot of this power structure is related to Jerusalem and Israel. If you read the Blue Lodge handbook and their allegiance and the topics, it's Jerusalem and Israel. So there's a lot out there. Psychic research, remote viewing, mind control, electronics, which brings us to a really interesting question. Can they and are they mind controlling and programming people? Black Op experiments, Montauk, Project Montauk, MK Ultra, Project Paperclip. There's just so many. Miles Johnson and his series of videos on YouTube. The Basis series, look it up. Kathy O'Brien writing a book, being a mind control victim. Where famous people have taken these mind control victims, women, to parties and sexually abused them in very bizarre ways. And then we have the falsified false flags, falsified gun shootings. 9/11, we still know that the insiders who did it have not been apprehended or arrested or persecuted, prosecuted. They're allowed to go free, and they're the ones in control of our world. So the book I'm going to go over and the subject I'm going to go over is probably twofold. One is the psychic aspect of the human body and the human soul, and the other one is the electrical, bioelectrical aspect of the human body and the human soul. Mind control, propaganda that H.G. Wells kept saying in his book, The Open Conspiracy. So the book is Russell Targ and Harold Puthoff. Mind Reach. Scientists look at psychic ability. Introduction by Margaret Mead and foreword by Richard Bach. So these scientists are physicists. So one can assume they're not country bumpkins who don't know anything. They've written a few books. And I've gone over some high-tech psychic research, remote viewing subjects in my previous videos. But it's time, because of the recent happenings, like the Sandy Hook school shooting. The videos on YouTube, in my opinion, clearly show that it was a hoax. The school was closed. Mold everywhere. No Christmas decorations. It was Christmas time. So the school had been closed for years. So why would they do that dramatic event and say that that kid shot all those people when it was all a stage performance? And then we go with the Boston bombing on 666 Boylston Street, which apparently there was a fabricated event, a planned event, again, to get rid of the, apparently get the politicians on board to help remove the guns from the American people. The Batman movie shooting, where if you watch the movie, Bane was the evil character, while Romney was running for president and being accused of running an evil corporation called Bane. Seems like they're getting into the psyche. Then you got that shooting of the white young man going into a South Carolina Charleston church and shooting a number of black people. And out of nowhere, they don't want to talk about ISIS right now. They're talking about getting rid of the Confederate flag. Seems like somebody's getting in the psyche. And if you're watching at all some of the press releases, they got this new term I just learned that's pretty scary. An anti-government belligerent. And apparently they passed laws, legislation, saying that anti-government belligerents are acceptable targets in this war on terror. So they've switched from the Iraqis, which they attacked in Afghanistan, and a father would come out and demand some water and milk and food for his children, and he was an insurgent, and they would shoot him, shoot the whole families. So now with this New World Order trying to take over the world, they're custom designing the propaganda to make it that people who are aware of Jade Helm dispersing troops all over the country, speaking negatively about it, an anti-government belligerent. And with the Supreme Court, again, doing the legislation or declaring that the states could not ban gay marriage, they're messing with the psyche. So how far can it go when they mess with the psyche, the human body? So I'm going to take some time, make a couple videos, and hopefully some people will wake up to this information, pass it on to other people. I'm certainly not anti-USA. I don't want a nuclear war, World War III. I don't want to see the United States go into martial law. I don't want to see Ebola plagues artificially dispersed across the country to cause martial law, or some Pacific trade agreement passed where the current administration, which is basically a controlled puppet, has put in the Pacific Trade Agreement a declaration that American people shall not bear arms, overriding the Constitution, messing with the psyche. There's too much out there. So, other Delta books of related interest: Beyond Biofeedback, Mind as Healer, Mind as Slayer, Towards a Science of Consciousness. Now, the bottom line I'm trying to make here is that people need to become aware of this stuff. Whether it's another person using his psychic ability to mesmerize, control, read somebody else's mind, spy on the enemy, like the books that we've already reviewed, or the high technologies now that can map the brain. They can aim a device at you, or you walk by a scanner on a city street, and there's this invisible, of course, magnetic field. It's like when you scan your card or any product you buy with the little scanner ticket in it. If you walk out the door without paying for it, the alarm goes off. They have electromagnetic fields that pick up on that thing. So I think science has reached a point. They can do that to humans. They can map the human person. And then it feeds into a supercomputer, and boom, they can send a signal back to program your mind, take control of your body, change your emotions. So anyways, mind reach, scientists look at psychic ability. Alright, 1972, so if we understand what's in this book and realize that's 1972, what's that going to say about 2015? Oh my God, the advancements. So copyright 1977, manufactured in the United States of America 1978. Got a little saying here: without going outside, you may know the whole world. Without looking through the window, you may see the way to heaven. Tao Te Ching, Lo Tus, 6th century BC. Probably said that wrong. So I'm going to probably be maybe a little... Some of this might be boring, but it's important. Vitally important. Alright, preface. Page 9. Discoveries of any great moment in mathematics and other disciplines, once they are discovered, are seen to be extremely simple and obvious, and make everybody, including their discoverer, appear foolish for not having discovered them before. So we all know for thousands of years there was no electricity, no radios, no TVs, and no automobiles, and certainly no cell phones, right? And in the last 100 years, after thousands of years, everything went off in a tangent. And one of those men that helped push this along was Nikola Tesla. And we've gone over his books in my videos and his information. And as an older man, Nikola Tesla would get up on stage to talk to people. And once in a while would say, "I'm not the genius that people think I am. I've had visions or dreams or apparitions feeding me the information." And then Westinghouse or Morgan or Chase or whoever, Rockefeller who was there, Edison, would run up on stage and pull them down. They didn't want people to know that. So what entities from the other side were feeding Nikola Tesla the high technologies of wireless energy, which today might be a strong part of the technologies to map people's brains and mind control people. And the government black op projects have spent years researching this stuff. Horrific information has been revealed. Even Hitler was into this. So when they do discover something new, it's so obvious, like it says here, from G. Spencer Brown, Laws of Form, they just think they look foolish. They didn't figure it out. Alright, during a lengthy series of experiments conducted in the Electronics and Bioengineering Laboratory at Stanford Research Institute for the past 3 years, we have been investigating those facets of human perception that appear to fall outside the range of well-understood perceptual or processing capabilities. So this research has gone high-tech. The primary achievement of this research has been the demonstration of high-quality, remote viewing and the ability of experienced and inexperienced volunteers to view by means of mental process remote geographical and technical targets, such as roads, buildings, and laboratory apparatus. Our accumulated data from over 100 observations, more than 20 subjects, indicate the following. The phenomenon is not limited to short distances. Electrical shielding does not appear to degrade the quality or accuracy of the perception. Most of the correct information given by subjects is of a non-analytical nature, pertaining to shape, form, color, and material rather than to function or name, suggesting that information transmission under conditions of sensory shielding may depend primarily on functioning of the brain's right hemisphere. We've gone over this in the past. Everybody's brain has two hemispheres, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. Me talking on this video right now, moving my arms, is the left hemisphere. It's the basic fundamental human activity. Observance, everything I see. The right side of my brain has a higher function, the dreams you have at night. The signal sometimes people get that they think of somebody and then minutes later the phone rings or the person shows up. Or they sense danger and stop where they're walking and look down and there's a rattlesnake. When I grew up in Florida, that happened many times. I'm walking along the side of the street to go to the store to get a soda, and all of a sudden I freeze and I look down and there's a rattlesnake. So this right side seems to be operating at a much higher frequency. You got the two halves. And apparently this right side is operating at such a frequency that it can communicate with the other world, the world where I suppose you could say dead people go, or people who were never, and not people, but entities or beings, demons, spirits, whatever you want to call them, who were never given a human body, exist in that world with some of the books that we have reviewed. There was one book I reviewed that warned about entering into this other dimension, leaving your body. There are dangerous entities there. So again, if that does exist, and it's in line with what's in the Christian Bible and other religions, religious books, Islam, Hebrew books, Buddhism, Hindu, American Indians, Mayans, Peruvians, Alaskan Eskimos, Russian. The story's the same wherever you go. Aborigines in Australia, everywhere you go it's the same. And the symbols, the snake. Then you got David Icke saying that there's reptilians out there. The snake in the Garden of Eden, that was a reptilian, convincing Eve and Adam to eat of the apple, which made them become more aware of their reality and not comfortable with being naked, and grab some fig leaves to cover up. So when God, whoever God was, came to the garden, this is in Genesis, you can read it, and said, "Where are you guys, Adam and Eve?" And they said, "Well, we're hiding because we're naked." And God says, "Who told you you were naked? Did you eat of the tree I told you to not eat of?" So we can understand this in today's reality, that somehow some kind of information program went on in their brain when they ate of that particular tree, which altered their perception of reality. It's not rocket science today. They do this today. They got drugs out there that can do this. They got equipment, many scientific advancements and experiments behind closed doors that the general public is unaware of. How far have they come is my point. What can they do? What is reality? I know it seems like, you know, you want to just get to the punchline, but you can't. You gotta think about this. We're human beings. We have brains. We have to look at what's going around. Apparently, a lot of people are waking up and aware of a looming catastrophe, but nobody wants to step up to the plate and do anything about it. I'm doing something about it, making these videos. And according to a press release I read yesterday, the government, I guess the Pentagon, and the people ruling the world wanting this new world order and kill off 90% of the people, according to the Georgia USA Guidestones. Am I not supposed to believe those stones in Georgia that I drove down to and read and took pictures of that you can look on the internet? It says they want 500 million people. Am I not supposed to believe H.G. Wells in his book, declaring the overpopulated world was a huge problem back in 1928 and 1930? And many other books that I've gone over in my videos. So anyways, moving on this book, we talked about the left and right hemisphere. So it says, this indicates to us that remote viewing is probably a latent and widely distributed perceptual ability. Although we do not yet understand the precise nature of the information channel that couples remote viewing events with human perception, certain ideas in information theory, quantum theory, and neuropsychological research appear to bear directly on the issue. So what I'm trying to say is we're taking this to by some sincere, seemingly decent scientists, decent human beings, and of course publishing the book and telling all. Should we not listen? Should we be concerned? Our second objective is to attempt to prevent psychic functioning from again being undiscovered. So I believe the government, and I shouldn't say the governments, the people who control the installed selected government, not the people elected government fairly, because no matter what choice they give you, the local Democratic candidate or the Republican candidate, it's part of their team. They don't care which one wins. And the one that loses winds up with a good gravy job anyways. So the candidates don't care. Just thinking out loud. There is a great resistance to accepting data indicating the existence of the paranormal. Its acceptance by society is limited to the degree it violates the main tenets of our shared conditioning with regard to the sensory limits that we have come to accept as absolute. So could that young man, who supposedly shot all those black people, which then hence brought on the big debate about the Confederate flag, which in such a short period of time, South Carolina has already banned it on state property, I read. So is there some more nefarious diversion, divide, and conquer technique going on? It seems likely. Okay, psychic abilities here. Its acceptance by science is limited to the degree that the underlying laws governing the phenomenon remain unidentified. So if you're working for a university and you're a scientist and you try to go outside the box and expose things that the powerful people running the world who publish the textbooks don't want the public to know, you're going to lose your job as a professor or even with a huge company. So moving on, that says here, we have become accustomed to dismissing the merely unexplained as non-existent. Alright, it says here, until the observations described in this book can be fit into niches that allow them to be perceived, the experienced as a familiar, to be perceived and experienced as the familiar. There will be a continuing desire to sweep them away. So whether you talk about psychic control of one person leaving their body, which I've read in some of the remote viewers' books written by the remote viewers who worked for the government and then left, and of course they wrote books and they told all. Some of them could even leave their body, go at a far distance, enter another person's body, and take control of that person. Now we know in the Bible, at least a dozen times, people were possessed by demons and entities, and it disconfigured them and made them crazy and insane. And Jesus, a dozen times in the Bible, cast that demon out of that person, and they became normal. This stuff can't be dismissed. If the powers that be, who are trying to create this new world order, remove the guns from the citizens, promoting decadent sexual activity, even transformations of people from like Bruce Jenner to Caitlyn Jenner, and then we know that Hitler was into the superior race eugenics and Monsanto and cloning. What's in store for our future if we don't wake up and think about this and see what's real? Obviously, back in the hundreds of years ago, the Dark Ages, they were aware of this. I mean, they were burning witches and other people at the stake. There was some of this information or practices out there that people became aware of. Even in Central South America, they had a practice of abducting one of their own or one of the tribal neighbors and taking him up on a big altar and sacrificing him, pulling out his beating heart, decapitating and rolling his head down the stairs. You've seen the movie, maybe? So there's something more going on, and if we know the Bible, the other dimension where God's kingdom is, like Jesus said, in my Father's world, there are many mansions. And we see all the TV shows with time tunnels and Star Trek and all this stuff. What is reality? And what is the plan for the so-called overpopulated 90% of us, the people? Do they plan our demise with some of this stuff, Jade Helm and Ebola, sky spraying and droughts and revolution and World War III and so much more? So it just behooves us to consider some of this research. After we have presented this data in lectures, inevitably we've received a telephone call or letter within a couple weeks from someone who had the following procedure, followed the procedure we outlined, exclaiming it really works. So in the book, if you read it, you figured out how do you meditate and go into a trance and leave your body and look, go see to your cousin's house or whoever, family's mother, and come back to your body. And some people, the technique works. It really works. Thus, we go beyond just describing our work, detailing a procedure which can be followed by the reader should he desire to experience paranormal functioning for himself. So that was just the preface. The contents of this book, where will you be standing when the paradigm shifts? What is an experiment? The armchair traveler. Parapsychology and everyday life. Looking for gifted subjects. It turns out they're all gifted. About time, yesterday's paradox, today's reality. The two hemispheres of the brain see the world in different ways. Like I said, the left side of your brain is you watching this video, seeing the trees behind me. The right side of the brain is operating, in my opinion and my research, at an infinitely higher frequency. Now the trick question is, how far advanced have the powers that be gone in being able to map this electromagnetic field emanating from every human being, plants, animals, and if they can map it and decode it into observable and readable and understandable information, can they then retransmit back to the person and control them? It seems like that's the case. So now we have an introduction here by Margaret Mead. This book is a clear, straightforward account of a set of successful experiments that demonstrate the existence of remote viewing. You can go online at used bookstores, probably pick this book up cheap. I don't want to be telling the whole story. I'm only reading some highlighted portions. But I think it's valuable enough information. A lot of people need to learn about this technology that the powers that be have focused on for a couple hundred years. The Psychic Research Society in England, Europe, and then following that was the Psychic Research Society of America from 1840 to 1940. Plenty of books. I've gone over them in my videos. We're going to go over them again. All right, Margaret Mead, introduction. People, both inexperienced learners as well as those who have previously demonstrated psychic proficiency, have been used as subjects successfully. So everybody is psychic. Everybody that's alive has a soul. And my research has shown me that some people have, to the right, let's call the right, good souls that care about one another. And to the left, bad souls who do not care about other people at all, and would use, abuse, and all kinds of other evil activities for their own interests. We've all met good people, we've all met nasty people we didn't like. It exists. Not everybody has the same frequencies and range of emotions. Now, if you take that back a little bit and say, okay, it's the soul that's the main driver in this entity, my soul driving me. Is it a good soul or a bad soul? Am I making these videos for disinformation? Am I trying to fearmonger people? Am I trying to be an anti-government belligerent? Of course, I don't believe I'm doing any of those things. But the evil people would put that label on me. The ones who were machine gunning and killing Arabs all over the Middle East, causing the uprising in the Ukraine, causing the insanity in the United States now with Jade Helm and other programs. And apparently, around the world, they're doing these military posturing and programs. All right, contemporary quantum physics, specific quantities of electromagnetic fields, and advance in brain research not only have determined the experimental methods, but have contributed to the tentative explanations advanced in this book as to how this newly observed ability might operate. It's real, and we better wake up. Human beings studied have been able to produce formal drawings on paper approximating some distant spatial target, meditated only by the independent designation of the target and the concentration and attention of the subject. In fact, I think it may be fair to say that as the experimental methods to investigate so-called psychic powers have improved, so have the violence of controversy, the proclamation of disbelief, and the accusations of either conscious or unconscious fraud. So there are some forces out there that do not want the people to be aware of this information. They do not want people to believe in God. They are trying to destroy Christianity. That's even written in H.G. Wells' book and all the things they say in the Blue Lodge Handbook and many other books. Rabbi Marvin Antelman, To Eliminate the Opate. I mean, I could go on here for hours because this is series number 63. And if we add them all up, it's a couple hundred videos and hundreds of hours of material that I have read and discussed that they don't want people to know about. And if you try to disclose this and talk about, apparently, the people that run our world, apparently you could be targeted as an anti-government belligerent. Look it up. In all these fields, those who claimed new results have been subjected to enormous academic punishment. So they don't want the school teachers and professors and researchers to expose this information. They have been tempted to distort or suppress their data. Many have become unscientifically dogmatic and stubborn advocates of their positions, and occasionally some have been driven into exile. This is people who try to expose this stuff or teach this stuff or learn about this information. And even into desperate situations involving suicide, misery, and death. And again, in my past videos, we have discussed the current Obama administration relieving many generals and high-level people in the military of their jobs. Apparently, a question was put to them: would you fire on American people? And again, I said people with their souls in their human bodies. There are good people, and there are bad people. And all the ones who said they wouldn't fire on the American citizens, a lot of them were relieved of their job. You can look it up on the internet. There's a long list of these people. I've gone over them in my video. And then we have a lot of scientists, astronomers, biologists, who would know about Ebola, bird flu, Mars, SARS, whatever they call it, AIDS. A lot of those people, and asteroids hitting Earth or Planet X, astronomers and scientists and biologists. There's a long list of them that have been assassinated. Or they say suicide, where they shoot themselves in the back of the head twice with a shotgun. I can see somebody pull that off. And then, if you look at the political world, with apparently the president has the lawful right to have anybody assassinated. And they have. I got an email of a whole long list of people who were working for the Clintons who all mysteriously died. So when you mix this in with this and other activities, you have to put the whole picture together. And you come up with a recipe that's pretty concerning. It does not behoove us to be apathetic and ignorant. And people who are all over the world are becoming aware of this, who are doing nothing. And I don't advocate violence against these people, terrorism incidents and stuff like that, because that's what they want you to do. Just like they try to accuse President Assad of Syria of gassing his own people. They wanted everybody to buy that story so they could go in there and take him out. So there's a lot of politics going on that's quite evil in its purpose. Alright, so it says here, the scientific world and the literate public have been fully exposed to the intricacies of disputes involving scientific theories so dogmatic as to resemble religious beliefs. So they're certainly trying to say there's no God. As Rabbi Marvin Antelman wrote in his two books, Volume 1 and Volume 2, to eliminate the opaque. Because people's belief in God and adherence to being a good person, the Ten Commandments, and prayer to God, apparently was beneficial. It soothed them, it healed them, and this was some kind of drug called an opaque. The belief in God was influencing people for the betterment. And this did not behoove, apparently, the evil forces who don't want you to have access to God and the power of miracles and healing. They're afraid of God. Even people who have been abducted by aliens, you can look this up, in videos and books have exclaimed, while being abducted, they cried out in Jesus' name, and the alien dropped them like a hot potato. What's with that? It's crop circles. People video in crop circles manifesting, evolving, appearing right in front of them, and these glowing orbs were flying all over it. Spiritual beings making crop circles? Seems like a reasonable explanation if you look at some of the symbols. So was one person quoted in this manuscript said, "This is a kind of thing that I would not believe even if it existed." So that's what's going on in the United States and the world right now. People are aware of this Jade Helm putting troops everywhere. The government, if you can look it up on the internet, buying billions and billions of hollow point bullets. FEMA, Post Office, Social Security. Do they intend to use hollow point bullets on us citizens? Is discussing this and looking it up and printing it out and talking about it make me an anti-government belligerent? I'm trying to talk about psychic research, but if these government officials know all about this psychic research and are having souls, and there is a cosmic battle going on, it behooves us to put the 2 and 2 together. It would be valuable for the open-minded reader to explore some of the historical and cross-cultural backgrounds of PSI capability. It seems to be a very unevenly distributed ability, overtly manifested by only a few individuals. In most societies, no connection is made between these special, unique sensitives and the rest of the population. But if there are a large number of individuals believed to be capable of some exercise of PSI, psychic abilities, like predicting the future, diagnosing illness, and healing the sick, then the individuals who would normally stand out are simply absorbed into a group of practitioners, and their special abilities go unremarked. Other societies outlaw all such behavior as coming from the devil, or involving fraud, and here again both the uniquely gifted and somewhat gifted will be discouraged. So I believe that there are forces. Thousands of years this knowledge has been out there, even when they invaded South America. The conquistadors, Spanish, Ponce de Leon, whoever, carrying the cross on the banner, making their way to Mexico City. First thing they did is they made a beeline for the shaman's hut, found out all that he knew in his artifacts, killed him, burned everything, and then proceeded to burn all the villagers and steal the gold. So coming from the Vatican, in the secret vaults underneath, and other societies, the Zionists, Phoenicians, or people in other parts of the world with their religious knowledge, have known a lot of this occultic information, the secret mystery schools of Babylon that we've been talking about. And they don't want the masses of people to know this stuff. Furthermore, there is a good reason, this is page 28, to believe that the practitioner of an uninstitutionalized art, such as a prophet or healer or diagnostician, may have limited understanding or control of his or her special capabilities. So these scientists, these physicists are saying, in their opinion, this is all true. In any event, such abilities should probably be classified with all other statistically unusual abilities, such as the amazing aptitudes of some individuals to arouse awe and wonder. I have a brother, he's now dead, and with no art training at all, when he was young, I remember he had this amazing ability with no training, nothing, and he could draw a dragon and a beautiful woman beside the dragon like you cannot believe. This came from someplace else. It was an amazing thing. Where did it come from? He'd never probably even seen the picture, but he could draw it. It's interesting how some people are. But he was a uniquely interesting character his whole life, and he died young, sadly. In any such event, such abilities should probably be classified with all other statistical unusual abilities, such as the amazing aptitudes of some individuals to arouse awe and wonder. I remember in my house, I was having a beer with a buddy of mine. I go, "Can you draw?" And he drew this picture of one incredibly looking crazy man. I'll have to show it in this video. For example, the sophistication process possessed the sophistication possessed by one of the subjects mentioned in this book in the describing the necessary conditions for remote viewing is particularly striking. Psychic powers have historically been associated with the powers of healing, an area where faith and hope. See what I'm saying? Your belief in God, your belief in being good, your belief that God will heal you. Powers that be don't want you to know of that resource. Your belief probably to stop evil from doing evil to you and your city. Because we're all into some kind of, if you took an electromagnetic microscope and zoomed it on my arm or this armchair far enough, as we all know, we're going to see moving atoms and electrons. So there's more to the human reality than most people will contemplate, sadly. And if we don't wake up, a lot of people are going to die. And if you do try to wake somebody up, maybe the government's going to say you're an anti-government belligerent, a terrorist, an insurgent. Possessing a gun, possessing a Bible will probably be a crime. I know in Oregon, they put a gag order on people to not talk negatively about the gay issue. Isn't that against the Constitution? And if you mention the Constitution, like you can watch some videos on YouTube, you might get the heck beat out of you by the police and other people. Might be killed. For example, the sophistication possessed by one of the subjects mentioned is particularly striking. Psychic powers have historically been associated with the power of healing, an area where faith and hope. Faith in the healer is essential to the ability of the healer to heal, so that both healer and patient are held in a tight circular system which is beneficial to both. So the belief in God and the belief in the Ten Commandments and caring for your fellow man puts health unto your fellow man. But the belief in nothing and wanting to take what your fellow man has and kills him puts evil on him and probably the transmitter. I think one of the worst complications arises when both sensitives themselves and their followers advocate psychic energies as being extrasensory, as proof of life after death, or of the existence of the supernatural and the transcendental powers of some sort. When they attempt such a belief to something as little known or undependable as psychic energy, fanatics, is often substituted for open-mindedness. The very tenacious of the connection, the instance upon the physical manifestation of the power claimed to be outside the physical universe, means that they must cling to their beliefs more strongly in the face of all evidence to the contrary. See, I personally don't think believing in this stuff and learning how to use healing powers are anti-Christian. Jesus did it, and he said, "These things you shall do greater than I." Some version of that. When scientific methods were applied to the study of psychic powers, the confrontations became increasingly dogmatic, the arguments became more far-fetched, and the paranoia on both sides arose. In addition to the remote viewing, in which the participants were most successful in picturing by drawing rather than verbally describing and interpreting the nature of the target areas, the authors present a few cases of precognition, correct viewing of the target area before it is known to the observer, who is later to be directed there by randomly chosen instructions. So they randomly spin a dial and come up with some coordinates on the world globe, give it to a guy who knows how to remote view. He goes into a trance, he views that site, comes back, makes a drawing, they compare notes, and lo and behold, he was correct. As I keep saying, it might behoove us to be aware of this stuff and more. If there is precognition of a future event, such as a train wreck. Can death in the wreck be avoided by not taking the train even though the wreck still occurs? Stated succinctly, does precognition add up to a greater freedom of the will and to a new prescription for despair? And I might add, with Jade Helm and all this other posturing all over the world, and the government knowing about this stuff and experimenting into it quite heavily for 100 years, 200 years, have they seen the future and seen that they were overthrown, the evil forces? And are they posturing now trying to kill off the people that might overthrow them? We don't know because they don't tell us. The second issue, which will undoubtedly be picked up by this sensationalist press, which flows from the accounts of Soviet interest in mind influencing from a distance, is the prevalence of fantasies surrounding spying and being spied upon. Could the enemy read the president's mind? Thirdly, these experiments are concerned with the ability of the participants to penetrate shielding when both participants are willing to do so. But it may prove quite possible that this channel could be as successfully blocked as it can be successfully opened. So who is safe if the governments of the world, China, Russia, the UK, Germany, Australia, Austria, Peru, America, Canada, if they have secret platoons of people who can see what people are doing, even possess their body and make them do something like a school shooting, who of us are going to know this? Whom of us? Which of us? They don't know this stuff exists. Alright, those who wish to relate the human condition to some transcendental power in the universe should be better, not worse off by an increased knowledge of electromagnetic mechanisms. And we're going to talk about electromagnetic mechanisms because I think as much as another person can read another person's mind and communicate and influence, there's been enough scientific evidence to prove that transmitting certain frequencies, high frequencies, low frequencies, alters people's emotions. And I think we're going to get into some stuff I've read, I have, for this video, that they have high technologies now that can map the brain. Maybe it's your own cell phone. You're not even on, and it's analyzing your radiation from your body. Some little crystal in your cell phone. Computerized supercomputers are analyzing it, decoding it, because everybody is an individual. And then can they transmit something back and start reprogramming humans? It seems likely. Alright, so that was that much. I think I'll move on to something else right now that's interesting. I went by the photo store today for this video and got a few pictures. I just went on the computer, you can do this too, and I just put in there mind control images and randomly chose some of the ones I thought were interesting. So let's have a look and discuss it. Let's see if it helps us get anywhere. Alright, what we think mind control looks like and what it really looks like. So we think it's probes hooked up to your head. In reality, it might be the reason they created digital TV. Fox News, as reported on one video I watched recently, during the last presidential election, when they were doing statistics on who was where. Or even now, recently, apparently Rand Paul was 44% in favor by the public. Bush was 43% on this particular poll. Somebody else was 43, then 26, and 22, and 21, and, on down. That was the true statistics. But Fox News didn't even put Rand Paul at the top and just slid Jeb Bush to the top. So the point being is, what you watch on the news is false reality. So when you're sitting there discussing it with your wife or your friend, and you seeing what they say, you're being lied to. And as we all know, we're bioelectrical beings. So when they do map the brain, they have systems that can pick up on your brain wavelength and decode it in ones and zeros, as you see here. Pretty scary stuff. The greatest weapon is not a gun, nor is it a nuclear bomb. It's information control. You talk to people and they believe in global warming. If they just go on the internet and pull up ice core samples, they'll see that there's a regular system or dates of peaks and lows for thousands of years. And we got plenty of books out there behind the New York Times headlines, behind the Rockefeller report, all these names. That's what I'm saying. People who are watching this video right now, a lot of people, you know this stuff. But nobody is going to do it. They're going to wait for the bomb to drop, which is ridiculous. But dare I say that, or I'm an anti-government belligerent? The CIA's partial disclosure. This is a terrifying, documented story. Operation Mind Control, Our Secret Government's War Against Its Own People, by W.H. Bulwart, introduction, Richard Condon. So I guess you can go look up this book. They even have us USA people actually being ignorantly feeling guilty. Sustainability, driving a car, using too much water, food. You're enslaving the mind. Again, look up mind control and images. Alright, so it's pretty sophisticated methods that they do this. They have processing enhancement, feature extraction, so they can map your brain. And when your optical eyes pick up on an image, apparently they can put that image up on a screen. Visualization, sonification, audification. So sonically they could put a beam on you. You wouldn't even see it, of course. It's invisible sonic wave, like a sound wave from my mouth right now. And one frequency would make you feel kind of good. Another one would make you feel like you're having a heart attack, probably. Create anger, fear. Something sinister going on the planet, I keep saying. You can just look up and see the sky spraying to see that. But anyways, I got this little chart here of how it all works. So some of the receivers and transmitters probably be your TV, local cell phone towers, satellites in space, your cell phone, your laptop computer, your iPad. Everywhere you go, you're surrounded. If they have these high-tech equipment. And another thing that we all know, we should be aware of, we are human beings. And we do have some animal instincts, because when we were created, there's the soul in this biological body, just like an animal with 2 eyes and 2 ears and a mouth and hair and fingernails. Look at your dog. It has fingernails and hair. So they know some of our natural instincts. They know what triggers our emotions. And they're using them against us. Look at any magazine. any internet, any website you're looking at, up in the right-hand corner, wherever I get on my email, there's some hot chick dressed like this up there. If you're a normal human being, you can't help but look up there. It's taking away, it's intentional, is what I'm saying. Central Intelligence Agency, CIA. A couple of those guys were arrested in one of my past videos. 35 pounds of cocaine with scorpion logos on the packages. Driving across the border from Mexico. Captured by some local members of some kind of guard. Produced their CIA badges. They searched the vehicle, 35 pounds of cocaine. Called the CIA and said, no, those aren't our guys. So these mysterious alphabet security agents that run our world apparently are working for the evil forces. Clearance A1 required to access the top secret documentation. A3, B6 clearance required for all other access, unauthorized access prohibited. Use of deadly force to protect the national interest is authorized. So here I am exposing this, so I suppose, would they consider using deadly force against me for exposing them delivering drugs? And then you have all this New Age stuff going on, where people are told to meditate and communicate with higher beings, which all those occult books were written by. Supposedly they were communicating with masters and divine beings on the other side. What's going on? Does this stuff exist or doesn't it? Are all those books that I've read and made videos about true, or are they all false? So apparently now you have a computer that can map your meditation level, attention level, theta, delta. So when you're sleeping, I remembered how to say this, D-tab. Delta is the deep sleep state. Theta is the next state when you're snoozing and halfway awake. And alpha is when I'm probably normal. And tab B. Beta is a more awakened state. So apparently they got computers now that can map this. Different states you're in. So you can use biofeedback to make yourself more susceptible to communicate with the higher realms. And this new election coming up, they're touting Hillary Clinton with Jeb Bush. And that the fact that the people even aren't outraged. Incensed. But they keep bringing these false flags. You know, that guy shooting the black people in Charleston. And then getting all these officials saying that the Confederate flag has to go. What's that got to do with anything? Isn't the real threat ISIS, they say, which was created by the CIA, they say? It's in much research. The Arabs that they've all but killed. Government, derived from the Latin verb gunuvo, governere, meaning to control, and the Latin noun mens mentis, meaning mind. To control the mind is what government means. Politicians. I mean, isn't that all about lying to the people, taking polls, telling them what they want to hear? They have to have a really good laughing party sometimes at how stupid we the people are for not waking up. And we got another book here. Pictures of a book. Mind Control Language Patterns. You can go buy the book and see how far advanced they are. Don't watch TV. I do not have cable TV. I don't recommend anybody have cable TV of any sort. Mind control, programming, subliminal messaging, brainwashing, and conditioning. Mind Control by Dan Tellian Jones. How to influence the thoughts and actions of others without them knowing or caring. Alright, so I'm going to stop here and do something else on this video. I don't want to belabor this topic, but I certainly feel it's overwhelmingly important. Whether it's psychic control or electromagnetic control by supercomputers. Which brings me to another subject. Apparently this Jade Helm thing, JADE stands for Joint, you can look it up, Artificial Intelligence Control. So if they do this military exercise of extracting dissidents or anti-government belligerents who are exposing the truth, it's all going to be controlled by computers. And computers are made out of silicon. I'm just wondering, and this is out there in space here, but if there is an evil force, satanic, luciferic, demonic beings, and they're opening up portals, bringing them into our dimension, will these beings be controlling the computers that are going to be controlling the troops to extract Christians and other good people from society who don't go along with the New World Order and accept the mark of the beast? As bizarre as it sounds plausible from what I've been studying. With that said, I get these every year. I've gone over these in my past videos. Nexus magazine, which they publish in Australia. And apparently they don't allow them to be sold in America. According to my research, or what I've been told, which I don't have proof, it's because of the mind control topics in these magazines. So there just happens to be a mind control topic in this Volume 21, Number 4, June, July 2014. There's a lot of smarter people out there in the world than me. I'm just a researcher. And I researched the broad spectrum of the whole thing. But there are some people who are pretty focused on certain issues. So it might behoove us to read about what they have to say. Mind control in the 21st century. So this particular video, you're seeing the format. I'm going to do some of the mind control book, something in the middle with pictures or something, conversation, and try to work my way through this whole article. So 2 or 3 or 4 videos of mind control will probably be the result. And I know some people have attention and deficit order, so they think. And they go, I can't watch our 1-hour video. In my opinion, that's your problem. That's the problem with the country. People need to be focusing. Even if when I watch a video, sometimes I get bored or annoyed. I hit pause. So if it's a 2-hour video, I might watch 20 minutes. I can't take any more of that. Pause. Go watch TV. Go read a book. Go jogging. Drink a beer. Later on, continue. 20 more minutes. Pause. We can't overcome our weaknesses. And I think it's important. So it's just here, technologies that can tap into our minds and control our behaviors have become increasingly sophisticated over the decades, but are hidden for national security reasons. What is national security? Who controls the United States? Prime Minister of Israel, Mr. Sharon, Prime Minister of Israel, I suppose what he says is probably, he's not lying. But in a heated argument, we've discussed this, in the Israeli Congress, whatever, cabinet, somebody said, we can't keep killing the Palestinian people or something, taking their land. The United States will, stop us. And Sharon angrily said, don't worry about the USA. We control the USA. So if these banksters, Rockefeller, Rothschild, Zionist Jewish folks now, created the state of Israel with bribery and deals, controlled all of our money supply, and have created this new propaganda, of unsustainability with 90% of us still alive. Do you believe that? Or is it just a lie for a big, huge theft that these elitists want to kill off the people in the United States? And all the natural resources is, what, 70–80% of our land is owned by the federal government? And people like you and me are not allowed on this land, or to mine it, or to grow anything? Oil? Is it a theft? And what cleaner way to have a theft than to kill off the people? What a massive amount of money you could sell to rich people in countries all over the world. Is it as simple as Occam's razor? The simplest explanation is probably the truth. It's just about greed and theft, not about global warming or sustainability. That's my conclusion. And I want people to look into this. So anyways, I highlighted some stuff in this magazine by an article written by Stephen DeBasio, 13 January to 10 March 2014. I want to give credit where credit is due. His email is here, posted by veteranstoday.com, another good website with some good information. There's the Drudge Report, Stephen Quayle, InfoWars. There's many good websites out there, including mine, rickmiracle.com, The Truth Seeker, where I've, and then my videos, which I've almost 400 of them on YouTube. Many of them about sky spraying, a lot of them about all these books I read. And trying to expose the demonic propaganda going on to create a new world order and enslave the masses, those that they don't kill. So with the 500 million that they say they want, I suppose you need workers for mines and stuff all over the planet. You need agriculture and farmers and cattle, herders. You need factory workers. You need sex slaves, if you read what these people are up to. And people for entertainment, killing, running through the forest, chasing them, killing them. That's what these elitists have been accused of doing. I made a video about that recently. Oh my God, the stuff that I'm learning. Some really evil forces out there doing some evil things. So, conspiracy theory, mind control is a topic commonly perceived as conspiracy theory. So I read this whole thing. Look at all this highlighting I did. I'm not going to read all this in this video. But I did highlight some portions. And of course, there's nothing better than doing your own homework. Take some notes, write down some stuff, look it up, get a notebook, print it out, and by Jove, I think you'll get it. A neuroscientist, Michael Persinger, has said the great mythology of the brain is that it is beyond our understanding. No, it's not. In fact, according to the inventor and futurist Ray Kurzweil, very detailed mathematical models of several dozen regions of the human brain and how they work had already been developed over a decade ago. Kurzweil also said at that time that science is further along in understanding the principles of operation of the human brain than most people realize. While the brain may be complicated, it is not that complicated. Similar, a U.S. Air Force report from 1995 in a section titled Biological Process Control predicts that before 2050, we will have achieved a clear understanding of how the human brain works, how it really controls the various functions of the body, and how it can be manipulated. One can envision the development of electromagnetic energy sources, one that can couple the human body in a fashion that will allow one to prevent voluntary muscular movements, control emotions, and thus actions, produce sleep, transmit suggestions. Makes you wonder about that guy in Charleston shooting the black people. Why they fabricated and created the event at Sandy Hook, the Boston bombing. The motorcycle gang, why did they have snipers on the buildings in Texas or wherever that was out west? Already there, and a lot of dead bodies right away. And right after that, of course, you get the propaganda in the news that, why can't we get the guns away from the citizens? The citizens aren't doing any of this. The citizens didn't create 100 million unemployed people in the United States. The power structure sent all those jobs over to China, who were communist. And sustainability means that they think the people of the USA are using too many resources per person. Who controls the world? The Israelis. Who takes over huge companies and CEOs of most countries in the world? It's Jewish people. And not all Jewish people are bad. A lot of Jewish people are saying what I'm saying, like Henry Mackay, PhD, Illuminati, the cult that hijacked the world, Rabbi Marvin Andelman, Volume 1 and Volume 2, many other books, to eliminate the opaque. So if these evil people are that evil and control the world, and they have this technology, can you see the problem? And this, with the economy being in a strange way that it is, not doing very good across the country, and the drought in California. Why would they be doing Jade Helm and spending billions of dollars? It's certainly not going to help the individual business owner like me. Customers are going to buy fewer things. I think that's the purpose. Alright, as disturbing as such predictions may be, it is possible that technologies to prevent, or perhaps even impel, muscular movement, control emotions, transmit suggestions, delete memories, create false memories. So you don't know if these people that have done these incidents did it on their own. How come it's all young boys, by the way? So they're saying all these technologies have already been developed, according to this writer. Past developments, certainly even a cursory review of the open literature, reveals that various sophisticated mind control technologies already exist. We know what Agenda 21 is, or at least a lot of people should know. Is they want to take everybody away from the beaches and off the land and pack them in cities and 500 square feet per person. Who the hell do they think they are? While they're murdering more people in Palestine and building more communities, and one of their beaches has been declared one of the most world popular gay beaches. So, and you know, you can't immigrate to Israel unless you're Jewish, but the rest of the world is supposed to all come under one gigantic commonwealth, according to H.G. Wells. You see the plan? It's theft. All the resources in the United States, oil, gold, nickel, iron, coal, they want to steal it all from the USA people. Our constitutional rights will probably be determined as an anti-government belligerent if you try to tell the policeman who's telling you to roll down your window and tell him where you are going in the middle of any state. And you say, I have constitutional rights. Look up on YouTube and see what happens to people who say that. One guy's face was all bloody. Something mysterious is going on. Alright, for example, there is the 1974 invention of Robert G. Meloch, for which a patent was granted in 1976, that's M-A-L-E-C-H, and assigned to defense contractor Dorn and Margellon Incorporated for a method of remotely monitoring and altering brain waves. 1974. How far have they come now? 35 years later, more than that. Moreover, experiments conducted over 30 years ago at the Stanford Research Institute showed that the basic mind reading from EEG, electrocardiographic, cellulargraphic, readouts was possible. Like the lie detector machines, they've gone way past that. Revealing the existence of a non-symbolic language of brain wave patterns which could be deciphered and translated. Indeed, by the late 1960s, remote control of the human brain, accomplished without the implementation of electrodes, was well on its ways to being realized. A means of stimulating a brain by creating an electrical field completely outside the head was developed, and it was discovered that electrical pulses could stimulate the brain using far less energy than previously thought. Effectual in the old implementing technique. Not surprisingly, with such developments arose legitimate fears of a future world where human robots would perform the bidding of the military. So it is the elitist people in Zionist Israel and the Vatican and other places and high banksters to get humans, a new kind of human, I think, computer-controlled, to be very docile and live very mundane lives, work very hard, have a little bit of pleasure center, and sleep and eat very bland amounts of food, effectually not being a human being, but more of a slave human being. Just using my God-given brain while I can. One source quotes a 1970 Pentagon agency report as saying that it will likely be possible in several years, 1970 now, to induce sounds and words directly into the brain, bypassing the ears, as well as the use combinations of frequencies and other signal characteristics to produce other neurological effects. The report notes that the Soviets have observed various changes in body chemistry and functioning of the brain from the exposure of the brain to various frequencies. Also mentioned are studies at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology showing that magnetic brain waves can be picked up and amplified as if the brain were a radio transmitter, with no implants or electrodes required. See what I'm saying? Do we have any proof that that young man who supposedly shot those black people in Charleston wasn't under some kind of mind control? Or was the whole thing fabricated, like Sandy Hook, for propaganda to be delivered to the public, to make the public believe these lies of sustainability, of too many guns out there? What future event do they have planned for the human population in the United States that they want to remove everybody's guns when they say that ISIS might attack the country, or the Russians might attack, or the Chinese might attack? You would think they would want to arm all of us. Militias, patriots. Something suspicious is going on. Finally, in an article in 1981, describes how microwave generators placed in appropriate locations and transmitting at low energy would create interference patterns out of the interaction with brain waves, brain electricity. These interference patterns could then be built up by a computer into a three-dimensional moving picture of mental pictures. In other words, a remote thought scanner and a tracking device could be developed. So I'll stop there and remind a lot of people who use a computer. You notice how the computer fixes your spelling when you make a mistake? Or in my computer, I send a little message telling somebody that, see the attached document. You're not going to believe this. And I send it, and I forgot to attach the document. So I hit the send button with the mouse. And the computer comes back and says, "Are you sure you want to send this email without your attachment?" What? How did the computer know that? And I've noticed it monitoring what I'm doing often. And some of my, as you can see from my supposed anti-government belligerence, some of the stuff I try to send to people, the computer just shuts down. And we know there's a lot of trolls out there and people monitoring our comments on press releases. And you heard what I just said on this article. So my next video on this same book will be trying to read a little more from the book, trying to reinforce the evidence that the technology does exist and the experiments have been made that we apparently are some kind of spiritual being and we have some capacity for psychic abilities, seeing at far distances and other things. Even as some of the remote viewers that I have read had said, Tim Rifat, what was the other guy there? They said they even developed capabilities of entering like a general's body far away in another country and controlling that individual. So can you imagine if you can do this? You could go there, you were trained, CIA, remote viewer, remote handler, call it that. Go to Russia or someplace, control that general, and have him push a nuclear button, or a pilot in a plane. Fire on somebody. What kind of control do they have? Is all this stuff real? Should we be concerned? Of course, the answer is yes, yes, and yes, and yes. Thank you for watching my video, Rick Miracle reporting. Trying to save the USA and our way of life from these people who want us to believe that we are evil and we have polluted the planet, or global warming is destroying everything, or sustainability, we're running out of water that they keep polluting, or a Planet X is going to hit us, or Ebola is going, a plague is coming, or SARS, or a revolution, or white people hate black people, or the ISIS is coming and Muslims. It's just so funny. They've given us so many ors. It's like they're right out of the pages of the Protocol of Zion, book written by the Zionists who want to control the world, who said that they would create all these fears and issues to divide and conquer the population of the planet. Should we believe them? It's in their book, The Protocols of Zion, free online. Then I'm reminded of that Benjamin Netanyahu quote that was written by or published by that famous German person I used in several of my past videos that you can look up with these keywords. Benjamin Netanyahu thinks that America is a golden calf to be fleeced again and again and again. Why? Because she is strong enough that she can handle it, and we will destroy it and sell it off by piece by piece. Why? Because we hate America. And we will make them regret not wanting to be our slaves. Something like that. Look it up. Benjamin Netanyahu thinks Decide for yourself. He said it. I didn't say it. Protocols of Zion say they're going to do all this. I didn't say it. H.G. Wells wrote all this stuff with propaganda. He used the word propaganda over and over. And to profane and called humans animals. I didn't do it. We did the book on the Blue Lodge Freemasonic Handbook. It says Jerusalem and all that stuff in there. So obviously we know who controls all the Freemasonic Illuminati, Knights of Columbus, Knights of Malta, Vatican, they've infiltrated everything. Text Mars says in that pamphlet he sent me that Jews were the CEOs of all the huge corporations, which I didn't believe. So I got my notebook out, and got on the computer and looked up some corporations and Wikipedia and who's the CEO, and Text Mars was right. So again, let's get back to the beginning when I started this video. A lot of people are aware of all this, but nobody wants to do anything. But like Alex Jones said on Infowars.com, he said the people are waking up. And these evil forces, they think they're going to get away with this, but they have no idea who they're going to wake up when they wake up the American people. And I think that they're afraid of that. Rick Marico reporting.